Michael Yoder. Hi, Chris. Just watched your live stream today. Great stuff, and I binge watched a lot of your previous Q&A vids and Sensibly Speaking podcasts. You talked about religion and atheism, and I was thinking, since Scientologists don't believe in nor worship a god, and only LRH as source, doesn't that make them atheists by default? Would love to hear your perspective on this. Okay, are Scientologists atheists? This is not the first time I've seen this question. And it's an interesting assumption, but Scientologists do not worship L. Ron Hubbard as source, as you mentioned in your question. It's not a worship. It's maybe for some people it falls into that, but that's not because LRH said worship him. That's not because anybody in Scientology thinks that's cool. Nobody would say we worship L. Ron Hubbard in Scientology. They would say that we respect the man. We regard him, you certainly raise him up on a dais as an authority figure and somebody to listen to and respect. And everything he says is so brilliant and so genius that, you just can't help but just love the guy and want to be just like him. There's all that, but that's not the same thing as worship, I don't think, right? It's a different kind of relationship. But anyway, that being clarified, some Scientologists are atheists. I'd say probably more than your average group. But you've also got a whole bunch of Scientologists who came into Scientology through Christianity, Judaism, even Islam, or other religions, Wicca. I've met all people from all different roads, all different walks of life when I was in there. And that meant that I met a lot of different people with a lot of different God beliefs. And the thing about God beliefs in Scientology is it's not that people don't have God belief or a creator belief, it's that they just don't really talk about it much. We didn't really sit around talking about the nature of God. Maybe in the 60s and 70s when people were having more conversations and in Scientology and were more into the new age woo of it all and everything, especially the way it was being positioned in the 60s and 70s as a new age spirituality kind of a group. I think there were a lot more conversations about that kind of thing, but from my own experience, some of the most interesting conversations I had about spirituality and Scientology and Thetans and the universe were with my high school friends outside of the church, because I used to try to sell them on Scientology, and then they would kind of push back, and then we'd have these conversations, and they were fascinating, hours-long conversations trying to convince people of the truth of Scientology. But within the church, you're not doing that. You don't have to convince anybody of much of anything outside of the classrooms. And even there, as I've gone over in detail, it's not a matter of convincing people. It's a matter of beating them over the head with a dictionary or an encyclopedia until they finally relent and give in and say, L. Ron Hubbard, yes, okay, good. He's right. So, so that all being said, there are atheists in Scientology, but being a Scientologist is not automatically an atheist position. There are, you can believe in God, you can believe in a creator, you can believe in an infinite being, the being of all beings, the prime mover, unmoved, etc. Hubbard refers to these things. He degrades and derides organized religion all over the place. But as far as the concept of God itself, he very clearly does not say there is no God. He doesn't say that anywhere. He says that the Christian God and that Jesus are myths, specifically. And I believe he probably extended that to Muhammad too, but but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong on that one. As far as these constructs, these implants that were implanted, that were hypnotized into us, that's where Jesus, that's where Catholicism, that's where Christianity, that's where all that comes from. And all the symbology, the angels and the devils and the good and the bad and the light and the dark, all of that, Hubbard said, was implanted in our brains, actually during the whole Xenu thing. So that's where that supposedly all comes from. But the reality of a creator or a God, Hubbard did not diss that, at least not that I remember. And I read a lot of his stuff and I listened to a lot of his lectures. So he definitely said the Christian God is a myth. He said people are sending their prayers up to a myth. But then there were other places where he said that, you will understand God, you will understand the creator figure when you get to when he said for those of you who know Scientology terminology, he said, when you've cleared the first 7 dynamics, then the 8th dynamic, the God dynamic of Scientology, will then become understandable to you. So that's about as much as that they get into that.